This is my organization field experience final presentation. The three people I chose to interview for this were Jennifer Sutton of AEG Advertising and Marketing, Stephanie Swaney of U.S. Census Bureau, and Lindsay Hicks of Habitat for Humanity, and they are all based out of Kansas City. For my first competency development, it was teamwork. During this interview, Jennifer mentioned that the most important thing in this career is understanding your target market. She also stated that since the pandemic has started, it has been a bit tricky to navigate these new obstacles. AEG had to put all their minds together and produce an idea to sell more products when people are staying home a lot more. What they came up with was revamping their website to make it more user-friendly. This website is very eye-pleasing and easy to navigate. They also made profiles for everyone on their team with a short introduction to them to create a sense of trust to the customer, as well as making it easy to contact them. This situation is the living embodiment of great teamwork. More specifically, this was a prime example of strategy number 4 from the textbook, which is compete against a common enemy. The enemy would be the pandemic, and AEG won in this situation. My next competency development was empathy. Stephanie works for the U.S. Census Bureau, and during our interview, I learned that even before COVID-19 started, her job as a government worker has never been easy. In lectures, we learned how to deal with tough situations through empathy, specifically cognitive empathy. Stephanie stated that sometimes the people she needs to interview for her job will ignore her calls, yell mean slurs, and even threaten her when she knocks on their doors. This situation takes a lot of patience, but most of all, she mentioned how she approaches these situations. And that is by coming into them with an open mind, because you have no idea if that person had been laid off recently or had to quit their job to watch their kids due to the pandemic shutting most schools down. Essentially, what she was explaining to me was that you must put yourself in that person's shoes. Even if you aren't going through the same struggle, imagine what it would be like if you were. And then I have a quote from the textbook that says, "People who cannot temporarily let go of their role or status or set aside their own expertise or opinion will fail to empathize with others who have conflicting thoughts, experiences, or mental models." And my last interview led me to my final competency development, which was a mixture of teamwork and empathy. Doing this interview gave me a different outlook on this whole project. The other two people I interviewed were in a competitive business or were just working for a paycheck. But the people of Habitat for Humanity aren't trying to get the next big idea, but they would rather give homes to those in need, to help that family build a foundation on which to grow, and just to give back to their communities. This is an example of empathy and teamwork over anything else. The empathy came first when they decided to volunteer for the less fortunate, then the teamwork followed as they built their homes. I learned a lot from doing these interviews, but two things stood out the most. And the first of those two is the importance of empathy. Coming into this assignment, I assumed that establishing relationships would have been the most important takeaway. But then I realized you must understand your customer, or whoever it might be, before you can build a relationship with them. This made me understand that every great business needs to use this to succeed, and most of them do. If you aren't thinking of the customer first, then you will fail. And then the next one that I learned was that you can't be successful without each and every one of these competencies, and that they all tie into each other. For example, you can't establish relationships with customers without having empathy towards them. Also, you can't have teamwork without being able to manage conflict or value differences within that same team. Thank you.